that there's this vast territory of the unsayable, and that, as Adrian Rich says, that we have to make forays into the unsayable and bring back the lies and the secrets that would otherwise strangle us. And this is dangerous work. One of the vast unknowns is the body, that we have been told not to listen to, not to believe. And so in a group, we grow bold together, venturing into our own truth. And we write our own experience into existence. And it's nice to know when you come back from this faraway place that you have someone to say, I get it. So those who write, all of us are companions, and I'm blessed to write with two wonderful companions tonight, Judith Johnson and Sheryl Noethe. As we all know, one of the reasons that we read and write is to make and find connections. And the first poem I'm going to read is for Sheryl, and it's called No Sad Houses. Your life curves and meets itself as one hand will reach for another. Out of the wreckage, begonias potted on the steps, a hanging fish filled with wind, and behind your house, the mountain, rising up against the sky, not quite the color of the sky, distillate, settled, sure as you are, striding to meet me on legs long and happy, having stepped out of the sad old house of childhood, the blur that moved so fast we don't remember at 15, taking the curve by the old hospital every morning thinking it wouldn't take much. But you didn't do it. I didn't do it. Was it forgetting or remembering that saved us? They jammed something metallic down every orifice, searching for the secret hollows to take possession. That was the 1950s. No one talked about the spirit. But we knew. We knew if we passed through the tunnel, there was the luminous cloud carrying its own light inside. It took so long, didn't it? But as we found the words, the whole ruined world began to stir in our wake, as if the truth were enough to alter the configurations of the past. We grew bigger than them. We towered over their sad houses. We had no need to crush them, because we have the words, the golden thread that led us here to our own houses, where no one is dead while they are alive. This next one is called the Symplegades, and the Symplegades are the wandering rocks of Greek mythology. Sometimes I think of them as the poor banished monsters of Scylla and Charybdis, and sometimes travelers made it through those rocks. Symplegades. I want to slip beyond illness, the way clouds travel through summer and arrive as waves on beaches. Every day I remind myself, here is the only place to be, here where I am. When Shakyamuni woke the universe, fingertips of delight lifted every cell. Is anger ever right? Even supermarket bins are foreign countries lush with fruit. My friends go on without me, holding an apple in the hand without a thought for such tremendous weight. Evenings in the garden, I can see the lily through the tear in the swallowtail's wing. Ragged, seared, we enter every flower alone and scared. We can't see beyond this scrim, this veil, this lily orange. What else must I give up? Above, ceremonial gourds rattle in the hands of gods. thunder, some kind of prayer. This is the signal for night to begin. Others will sleep while the shrewd axe of pain peels me. Luminous as blood, red numbers fly past on the clock. Stop and let me in. The clashing rocks opened for Jason on his way to find the golden fleece. All monsters need diversion. Where are those dancing angels now? Where is the map, the chart, the guide to a point of entry? Numberless our efforts to escape, evade the other, meet the beggar at the gate, say, "Hello, I need a friend." A voice drops in my ears. "Don't sleep," it says. "Don't try." I stare through darkness to the lining of something like a shell. So beautiful, we forget the hands that push us through just before the rocks collapse. The return. Maybe I was exiled at birth, eyes wrapped in silky bands, married to the gold of doing everything right. But I remember my island, how I was transparent, aquamarine, angelfish nudging at my knees. Now I fold my hands and wait. Night weaves a crown of cool threads about my sleep. No lover waits on my clean sheets. No shoulder like a broken statue I polish to bronze. The sea rocks me in her arms, soothes my shattered life into a peach-lit dawn, wipes the looking glass clean. I dive into myself and come out the other side, an open girl without a past to slam her shut. She returns carrying my green island like a melon to the door. She knows this house is safe. I took the terror in, watered the dust, planted marigolds like startled fires we bring inside. She sits beside the blazing jars. I take her hand across this unfinished table, this fresh crust of bread. Moth wings hover in the silence that we breathe. Imago Dei. This comes from a diabolical challenge by somebody in our group to write a poem in a foreign language. But it wasn't quite that bad. It turned out that we could use foreign language words. So I used Latin and Greek. And a quotation by Heraclitus. "Invisible connection is stronger than the visible." What about the souls we abandoned, floating above us on a blue string, troubling our escape? As we lunge from tree to tree, the blue jays catch them with their hooked feet and bring them to us for a conversation. They are simple in the rags we left them, only asking that we take them with us. Every step is hard enough, the surface breaking into blades of ice, blood unfolds the flowers in the snow. Before I go on, I want more information on the century ahead. Heraclitus said we could never discover the limits of the psyche, even if we travel every road. Such is the depth of her logos. But that was so long ago, and he spent his time eating olives, probably reclining as he thought, idly pressing grapes between his teeth. What could he know of my delirium, The bomb dropped 5 years before my birth. Now, the great rift in the world drifts toward our numb feet. Only a smudge remains in the sky we blew open. One could almost say, what a beautiful sunset. Our demonics draw us down into the whirling blue wheel that spins the sun to black. The corridors of chaos, the mind shattered out of its mosaic into no design, the perfect zero, nada, nada, nada. Where impossibility meeteth us, we build a tent of patience. In the burning blindness, we mend the tapestry, stitch by stitch. Holding our lungs open on faith, the next breath will come. No God hand to lift us back into the picture, part the snows, so we might walk unharmed through ourselves. We read the manuscript of lies, wear the guns inside close to the heart, listen to the hammering of hate. Pressed beyond the believable, we learn. Burn the manuscripts, throw the weapons into the deep vaults of time. No saint will come to nod approval, pick his teeth. We are alone again and undefended. A blue shadow in the winter snow, I squint into the white wafer of a sun. The birds rise and slit it free. It curves gravity's glistening edge to land here in our arms. The golden bowl, the gleaming plated vessel, imago Dei, our true faces tremble in these waters. And is it behind or before us, the great blue Chalum pouring lakes of light? We breathe, and from our mouths she draws the sheaths of flame. This is the instant we are clean. If heaven opens, we glide in. I can't believe this, but I've either lost or forgotten a poem. I hear this happens to people. I found it. Perfect pictures. You are the vamp on the cover of the yearbook, floating in the lake. A fox fur falling from one shoulder, right leg launched forward, as if you were going somewhere. It's 1938. No one dies of grief. I lead you through the narrow passage where water surges through the rocks. On the shore, trees shimmer with aluminum tags. Each one has a number, the hour of our birth. Mine not yet picked by your flame-tipped fingers. We bob in our flamboyant life jackets, like chance, this chance rip in time. You can still turn in that photo, away from what everyone will think. Give the fur back to the fox. Step out of the book of perfect pictures. Your unborn daughter will never wade through barricades of dresses, wrapped up like dead butterflies in plastic, to find the empty vodka bottles. What does it mean that 40 years later, I still believe I won't wake up pounding my head against this silky life? This is another foreign language poem. The idea of this poem came from Jane Hirschfield's wonderful translation of 10th century Japanese, I suppose you'd call them court poets. The book is called The Ink Dark Moon. Courtesan, 1,000 years ago, Oko no Komochi wrote, "When my desire grows too fierce, I turn my bedclothes inside out." The old pine branches like a crazy fan, her black top knot in each neat bundle of needles. You, like the sea, stroking Japan. There is no such thing as a promise, only loosening the buttons at the throat, the world falling into disrepair. A dream room hidden for centuries opens in this house. Rumors of the aging courtesan outside the palace walls, half mad, hair loose, writing on the moon, Washarigusa, flower of forgetting. Through our naked bodies, we admit the simultaneous existence of the other. The lily in the garden curves back in pure delight. In the abandoned hut, she learned all longing is a gate. Once we broke into this house like thieves. It is almost autumn. Tree limbs entwined with arms and legs make an arch. Grass growing through our skulls to thatch the roof. The courtesan throws out her white face powder, rubs scarlet on the leaves. Slipping free of her fiery jacket, those secret reds. Gone, ink spots inside the lily, the lure of flaring petals. Leaning back, she sings a song to the sadness under every face. We stop and listen. How the branches know the lullaby. This is a poem unlike anything I've written before. I guess that's really all I can say about it. It's called Love This Earth. 1. Sometimes I lie down between the rows, sucking the dirt into my mouth, feeding as I sink. My husband stands upright like a person. His hand parts the earth's black lips. Gold kernels, each one a knot out of which something as complicated as faith will rise. The corn mothers of Africa in huts, in domes, in circular dances, shaking the silk. Who is the jealous spirit poisoning your body? 2. I was too weak to turn the radio dial. You wanted noise? Some distraction? I was nailed to this place, bed a ship of parables. How to behave when you are ill? Don't. You are passing up all these opportunities to heal. Is your therapist competent? Under me, the slave ship. In the dark, the bodies chained together at the wrists. The blood they lick, the only water. The ghosts resting on the interior mirror, a blade, would like to reach up and drag me down. It's silky under here. We wear corn tassels on black hats, and we can hardly feel the pricking of tiny knives in every cell. 3. The sky with its broken edges. We are silent when we are ill because we are not allowed to speak of the circumference of pain. I want to hear about the voices in your head. 4. The long leg bones were so twisted I did not believe they were human. They unlatched the cages. They wanted revenge. Hadn't I kept them captive? I was very busy. Things were important. I did not want them to say, "You're crazy. Here's the gun and your father's exploding head. There are knives in my kitchen. I was tired of stopping the screams for all of you. I was tired of not sobbing. I was tired of 5. The self. The lost ones come back eventually. Nothing can stop them, not even another shiny sedan, to do what they like. They say, repeat after me, like father, like... But let me digress. I walked. One day after taking the drug made from the blood of a child in Ghana, I walked again. One foot in front of the other, the green hill, a shawl over the woman. And you saw the spinning blue-green ball, the earth. Then I saw the medicine, white as burned bones, the child standing on one leg eating a strange fruit. And the voice said, love this. Love is the earth. 6. The words fell into the sink. I was too weak to dial another station. You expect us to forgive you for being ill? I heard them, even though they didn't speak. The knife was a mirror. I did not like what I saw. It was clear, and there is a final clarity as far away as Africa. 7. When you unwrapped the gauze from my wrist, we were 2 women laughing. We might have stepped from the dark. You knew. I could travel into the bright invisible only through this crack and look back. You, laying the strips across the slash like a row of neat white crosses, the butterfly bandages that close the mouth, not the heart. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay? All right. For this first poem, I have to explain a couple of terms. I didn't realize it's sort of a foreign language poem also. The first term is hexen bowl. A hexen bowl is a shiny brass ball that hangs at the base of a huge candelabra, the kind of candelabras you see in cathedral ceilings in Europe. And the second term is silja, S-I-L-J-A. It's the name of a Finn passenger line. It means seal. Beauty and violence, murals. I write a dream canal of blood, a body hooked, dragged to the lip. The gates unlock, blood seeps underneath a dry docked ship. A woman's body oozes multiple wounds. She's trussed up in a net, her husband satisfied. My heart pounds in my ears, down a quivering corridor of the Baltic Sea. I see the Silja mural on the ship. 3 women fall through water as they sleep. Long hair frothy white. Hairless bodies blue drift the 5th deck down to the 4th. Flowers scattered in a field like clouds. Down to the 3rd. Stars come out, fall into trees like cornered autumn light. Grandmother, mother, me. Mother, sister, me. 2 daughters, me. Weightless, free from gaze, our faces tranquil like the place inside ourselves of wild berries, flowers, color pulling inland from gray sea, the gray of Helsinki, of stone, of marriages that whipped us cold, this descent to the vanished self, rhododendrons, iris blue as Delft, the one escaped from centuries of men who hung the brazen hexen bowl in every European church, then lit its candle tiers, so witches saw themselves deformed in the shiny ball, screamed and fled, or bled upon the spikes the ceiling also held, caught by their flowing hair. I write in blood. 3 women in the mirror of sea, 3 women slate to cobalt blue, like Mondrian Zebuluzzi hanging in Den Haag. Panel 1. Triangle nipples, 1 point down, the chin tilt back, the dark blue slash, and on her shoulders, nebulae of blood. 2. Geometric head, the body still quite blue. Suggestions on the side like wings, triangle ears, white spheres supporting the long neck. Her eyes are huge, a blue within a blue, and suddenly awake. 3. The bloody nebulae now stars, her warming torso light. Shaded eyes are closed. She's sleek, unafraid, whole. Grandmother, mother, me, mother, sister, me, 2 daughters, me, cargo, burning in the universe somewhere. Had to do it. Penumbra. Daughter, shadow on wall, water, crossing the long pond in loose clothing, you are burning. The red hawk waits in a tree while you dance in the silo around 1 candle. You stop. The shadow hesitates. Shawled, shattered daughter, sweating out the rounds of pain. Earth calls the sickness from your body. Congealed throat, heart that gnaws away. Your body pulsates like a drum, crawls out, lies in the wet grass. How easily you rise above it, fly. I run between your perfect shadow and the light. Forgive my lifting water to your lips. Helping my daughter pack. We've done this before. Cushioned the fragile things, lamps, the frosted swan, in the move from father to husband, from punched stomach to bruises, 3 times and back, or from Butte to here. You are already somewhere else, moving from box to box in a daze, and I see you walking through lanes of blossoming cherry trees, your flower basket full. I can't ask why you run 3,000 miles away from yourself, wearing a red skirt and a rose pinned in your hair. I know you'll be back for your children, your cat. Take my credit card, a new clutch for your car, $100. You've already got my bangle earrings, my tambourine. Far from daughters, stealthy in the womb. Consider the situation. A lost daughter, a dream. She says, "Mother, go to the river, close your eyes, and pick a stone." You feel icy water boning your hand. "Mother, pay the price for 1 smooth stone." It will be dark in water, light in air. Later, you see it's russet, like her hair. In some wedding ceremonies, the mother of the couple are given lighted candles. With their mother's candles, the bride and groom together light the one wick of their new life. For my daughter's second marriage, mother candle. Nothing holds us here but grief. Our hands half clenched, same shoulders, unsure body stance, hang satin ribbons on the pews. We light the candles by stained glass. A lunar shadow rakes the tip of Africa. Daughter, take this light. At midnight leave receded water's damp expanse. By smell of salt and mud, follow olive vapors to the sea. Weave into the loon's long quavering, the mats of dark rosettes, the weathered shell whose dweller's door stays closed. Abrasions strew this shore, moon snail collars, houses, pounded brittle bits, but our limbs stay light, rising past eclipse. The violence of fire to earth, butterflies. And they hung so dense, passionate, their weight broke branches, their beautiful wings torching the trees with colors that burned like fresh romance. Moist, dark paths forked, hornets nested high. A hang glider rode a salmon-colored kite. They flew to the stone arch covered with vines, turned away forever from the man in its shadow, away from the bride caught by a diamond window in the corner of her eye. I broke away, broke through a clearing, walked toward berries of ash and haw. For 30 years I walked toward my daughter, until the arms I'd given birth to held me close. To do it over, I'd still choose you for my mother. Let go of guilt. Let go. When she cried me back into her life, we lifted like fire, perfectly formed, in gusts of fragrance, in powdery darkness, salvaging poison from leaves to protect ourselves. Lifted in the vast middle, all of us, with a capacity for stillness that took breath away. What we call daytime, the Aborigines call dream time. Dream time. We gather mullein, cedar, sage, spread them to dry. Rolling in sage, the white cat crushes its leaves with her weight. The cave of her eyes narrows. At night, when shapes shift, she sleeps on my daughter's heart. My daughter dreams wind fracturing branches on one tree. She feels the snapping, wants to free the tree. In the instant of her wanting, the tree cuts clean at the base, bends toward her, the house, touches, bleeding. Blood spreads down white walls of the house, dark, red. The female voice of the tree speaks, bowl of the heart. The street is bleeding. People come running. Stop the blood. No, says my daughter, to bleed is to heal. Let her bleed. The daughter who lived in the house. My cat's in her arms. Cedar dries. The fragrance of sage fills us now. We pick berries, make pancakes, syrup, and pies. Blue Mountain Lookout, Missoula, Montana, September 2nd, 1993. How does that hillcrest manage a green knob when, having walked it today, I saw it's dying? Slashed, its stumps bleed, not sap, but a red ooze so vivid I'll swear I smelled raw meat. Flies were drinking it. Rushing down the red road through straggles of yarrow and blessed thistle, I threw up. Foliage burns red, gold. Someone else is climbing up to see this. I watched her place a feather in a broken tree. Another, almost speechless, numb, will touch, take, nothing, says, enough has been done. What energy lingers? Moss? Vultures circle, black eagles who follow death. We know, if someone is on the step behind us, don't turn back. If we could face the vultures, what would we say? Yesterday, sap didn't spill like weeping from nearby still live trees. Would we lift our arms, sing, "Come to me"? I have pictures of the perfect shape, pyramid, green, straight, survivor. The bulldozed piles, the cleat marks of iron teeth. 3 times an hour, Jake breaks death rattle down the road. By the way, I brought pictures if anyone wants to see them. On a lighter note, this is the fairy tale sales lady. In the middle of town, in a store, a clerk observes finches nest in the awning, assembles boxes, dusting, counting, cars, people with shopping bags, a man in a black derby, girls and cokes. A red Camaro boom chucks by. Off in the distance, burnt stubble shadows the mountain rim. It's all perspective, she thinks. Shadows reflect boughs in the river, while truth hangs overhead. Or walks her dog in sandaled feet, a ribbon in her hair, diamond patterns on her sweater, stops, peers in the window at lady reflecting, at Arctic wolf, shies away if stared at. So the clerk, pretending to mind her business behind her counter, internally sighs. Come in. I have glass as green as compassion to keep vanilla in, just for your skin. I'll play a tape, some rhapsody upon a theme, then take apart for you the green Matryoshka doll that dwells inside herself 9 times. The doll with eyes like gems the reindeer Silverhoof would strike from snowy roofs into the match girl's lap, full of refracted light. I'll let you hold a teal bottle with golden dapples swimming round like fish. Don't touch the lid. 3 wishes inside. Truth, what would you wish for? Dream catcher earrings? A thimble? Wine? Truth steps inside, asks the time. I have 2 more poems for you. Leaving my sister. She holds sun-warmed stones till they lose heat, keeps searching for one to bring home. I tell her I'm leaving, afraid she'll lift her arms, slip through a rift. The first stage of failure has come, from the highs and lows of her blood, the needles, insulin with her always. She tells me how trees cloud just before they leaf, how grays soften, then burst, and she can't miss it. The moon, thin as blooms after winter kill, stops at her hill. I want it to skip on blue water, ripple and glisten. I want a warm stone that will hold her. She is too light. She must turn back time like she did, sneaking in from dates. I'll bring her a blue willow soup tureen, or the desert's red clay. I'll keep coming back and we'll laugh that we still run away together. We'll sit on her deck at 3 a.m. watching stars, while the one bird who doesn't know when to quit sings. I'm turning 50. That's old news. Once I had an odyssey of seeds. Coming out of concealment had an ethereal sweetness. Like the bowl of a young Madrona, I was lovely to touch. Bits of who I've been passed through me, fragments of flowers, my mother more beautiful than I remember. I see her hard face in a tree whose pale branches cradle her shadow out on a limb. I seek undersides of limbs. After months of beginnings, this is not goodbye. Autumn melts into its wild element, reveals thorn and fire. Leaving has an ethereal sweetness.
I like an audience that runs away with the break. When I was shopping for clothes for this poetry reading, I went to thrift stores and bought a bunch of stuff and hung it in my closet, and then got dressed tonight and wore it and sat down, and my body kind of warmed it up, and I took off the coat, and all of a sudden it smelled like the Goodwill store. And I thought about Anne Sexton saying that poetry is making trees out of old furniture. And I think that maybe that's part of what I'm doing, is I sit here smelling the lives of dead people on myself unintentionally. And the second thing that I want to say before I start is that it's so marvelous to have people come and gather around language. And the lighting in here for a while almost made it look like we were gathered around a fire together, exchanging the stories of our lives, which is what I think poetry is ultimately and came from. The first poem I'm going to read is called Decade, and those cool Manhattan mornings, still blue sidewalks we rose before the sun turned the city to an oven and drove your father's garbage truck up the Hudson River, where you dropped me off on 94th in Amsterdam, where I slept for an hour or so in my room before taking the train up to the Bronx, where I urged school children to remember their dreams and talk to animals, while you drove over the bridge to New Jersey to work the route on the big truck with your father, while waiting for the break you needed to take your band on tour with the Fleshtones and be on MTV. Never imagining how money and travel would turn your heart to booze and cocaine, and you would nearly destroy yourself in this bigger life, while I grew gradually nearly too tired to stay alive and moved to Idaho to teach mountain kids to trust completely in the imagination, while I learned to drive a stick shift, chop wood, bank a fire, and surround myself with dogs and children. And once or twice I saw you on MTV, and I saw your face on tapes in stores, and I remember you in your underwear making coffee on the Lower East Side in a room where the former tenant had stenciled skulls and crossbones with ink so indelible it soaked slowly through every layer of paint you ever put over it. And your pointed Beetle boots that stomped out the beat so hard the whole stage shook as I shifted my life in 13 cardboard boxes out of Washington Heights to the west, where I had the good luck to meet a brave fireman and move in. And once we saw you on TV and I never said a word. It gave me a scare to see an old boyfriend on MTV. The next poem is called Body of Poetry. 1. In the beginning, we were always dreaming. Often, we returned to that early place until the others discovered our jewel, our wound. And now the guest is inside me and the fat is made into dirt. Did we give them our permission? Was it our meadow? Did it blink? Could it suffer? Did it see them coming? And the shape of the faceless place where our heart breaks. 5 fears for every hope. Fierce longing breaks open the moment, and you walk into a room full of people clamoring to tell you anything. Out of the dark, their mouths are moving, and in their mouths, the dark is trembling. 2. A newspaper photo, Bosnia. A beauty pageant. The women, wearing bathing suits and high heels, hold up a sign that says, "Please do not kill us." 3. There is a new school of thought that says, relax. Words are only symbols that can be played around with, steeped in blood and passion, only real when your city is under siege. 4. And I am afraid to go into the parking ramp alone. I know 3 women raped and killed there. Let us go into the sentence together, gripping the loved one and the murderer, keeping our stories intact, and I will tell my girl, and she will tell her friend, these words are real. I am trapped in the camera, a place with no memories, no discourse, no resource, no greenery, no waterfall, no telephone call. A haunted, 2-dimensional place composed of cold stone where it is not safe to fall asleep, where it is always night, no shelter, no place the wild animals can't find you. And this lens is fixed now, a dusk to dawn curfew, an endless basement, no working doors, a dark room, a man drinking who wakes up and looks at you, a flat place you wake up in, a hamper you will not fit inside. You do not turn your back here. You will not outsmart anyone. Sex torture everywhere. The big boys are in the alley. The women are dressed as meat and devoured by the concept. Asian sex tours. Filipino teenage bride for a night. Bride burning, doused in kerosene. Brothel slavery. Comfort women. Supreme Court porno addicts. A place where the air swallows your breath like another mouth. You are awake and a bad thing is going to happen. You are not a part of the world. Legal systems that defile women who speak up, dress wrong, or have a drink with the boys. No matter where I see it, TV, the news, magazines, movie theaters, the streets, the women's shelter, the hospital, the supermarket, Kmart, 7-Eleven, the morgue, I have to go through it all over again as though it was happening to me. A military place finally tipped by a number of covert assassinations. A mercenary people, always at war, no health care, more prisons than schools, alleged drug war fattening munitions dealers. Here where the man side of things is too heavy, here where the woman side of things is clitorectomized. More women die at the hands of loved ones than die on the freeway. Rape thrives as though we were living in a society of jailed men. You can judge a place, a poet once told me, by how it treats its women. The next poem I've read before, but it's my poem, my ultimate waitress poem, and it's called Smile, Honey. You know the second line, you're prettier when you smile. Say thank you, smile, Want bigger tips? Lie still. Disassociate. A TV in the background. Sleep hard, wake up old. The windows and mirrors darken while you say thank you to the silence. Smile. It's the difference between mind and object. It's what metaphor is for. A demon in the basement, the shadow in your doorway, coiled loosely around, loosely put, his smile. Smile into the darkness at the bus stop, at the stopped car, with a businessman hissing his business of tumescence and detumescence. Smile and turn away, if you can, if you have a job or a husband. Don't tell anyone. Keep it to yourself. What goes on between you and I? You could go to jail. Cooperate. He says, we free verse poets have been very bad boys, and his friend says, buddies of mine on the writing scene would disagree with you, but I'm the baddest boy of all. I'm the girl you're afraid will talk. The small, mad, uninvited voice that describes your backside and underneath, how it looked in the porno corner on Lake and Clinton when I got off the bus at night from work, and what they had to say to keep us from telling back before we had words, when all they had to say was, smile, honey. Thank you. This poem is called Mother. I have the thumbs of the demon who begat you. In my gestures I use your hands. When I was a child, your body was a natural disaster. Whole towns were swept into the sea while your voice sang from another room. When I was young, I was afraid you would die at work, waiting tables, and your body would be lost. You of the rubber girdle, slapping your hips in the mirror, strawberry blonde wig, movie star sunglasses, I have your bones. After the last baby, your thoughts were broadcast over the PA at Target. Some days you could not feel your arms, you would not go outside. And when my rabbit died, you called out to God, take me instead. A woman's life, you told me, is a used car lot. You twisted your blouse, you stared at doom. This led to Dr. Swenson of electroshock fame, 17 sessions with a curling iron. And after they ran over you with the train, how did you feel, Mom? Guilty. How can you fear I will abandon you? It is your feet I bathe daily, your thumb holding my spoon, and your voice in my weeping. This one is from my chronically unpublished manuscript, Bedwetter's Lizard Dream. I wrote it last year when I did a tour of one-room schoolhouses in the Passamaquoddy Valley in Idaho. Over me, the sound of the river, the whispering of the parents, the bawling of the cows from the horizon. Over this high mountain desert, red as Mars. Over the conversation of the living and the murmuring at the edge of the 20th century. I lie on a cot in a log cabin and look out a window into the dark extension with its rare scattered lights, glimmering from long dead stars and far mercury vapor lamps. My grandmother died in childbirth at 30, and I feel her struggle against the denial of time in my cells. I feel the goddess Nut stretching to reach the milk star. I feel the desire of these things to break free from their shape. Walking along a dirt road in the Sawtooth Mountains, I am afraid, as always, of the indefinite object. I make the echoing ee-ya of the Thai pig-calling women. Frightening fright. No wildcat, no mad skunk, no bear, no badger, wolf, wolverine, no wild dog. But a blue truck approaches. 2 bearded men, rifles hanging in the gun rack. I stand beside the road, clutching a rock, squinting into the sun, waiting for the men to determine history. I used to ask the children to write about animals. After a few weeks in this area, I stopped asking. I am tired of stories of cruelty, neglect, murder. Does the animal have feelings? I ask my classes. Does an animal have a soul? But they do not. Most of them here, no soul. I ask the rancher's wife why the herd of cows I hear from far on the horizon has been bawling so sadly all week. They're being weaned from their calves, she tells me. They sound sad, I say. Yes, she says. They seem to feel sorrow. The wild grasses here, they say, used to grow as high as a horse's belly. all the wild grass here, gone. The next poem is about recombinant genetics. Like that poem that talked about the newspaper picture of the women in Bosnia with a sign. That's real. It was in the Missoulian. Please do not kill us. So I read the paper, I listen to the radio, and then I go on these bouts of poetry writing. And this one came from this quote in the New Yorker. It's called "A Pig, a Human Being." A few years ago, in an effort to produce leaner pork, researchers at the Department of Agriculture spliced a human gene into a pig embryo. The pig was born cross-eyed and with a strange wrinkled face, with arthritis so severe it could hardly stand, but the meat was much leaner. And that's true. That was in the New York Times. 1. Cannibals call us long pig, cross-eyed, twisted feet, this newborn with grandma's puzzled face, weeping infant who will never stand, cousin, little brother, relative genetically crisscrossed for the skillet, fed, hung, bled. 2. I love the roundness of my skull, my feet identical to my brother's, the length of bone in my thigh from a tall great uncle. My Aunt Trion's cheekbones, my father's dark eye, my mother's jaw, a far northerner's brooding brow, the ropey muscles of my arms, my knife eyes, my spear hand, the impulse to strike back quickly, a weakness for animals in motion. I have his sweet tooth and narrow arch. I have her red smile, inviolate. Now I'm going to read you some poems from a series I'm writing called Grief Poems, and they're a lot of memories and dreams. Before the invention of whiskey dream. 1. I am visiting the sad city of our youth. I am at your house for the first time in years. You have made a tablecloth from Chinese pajamas. Upon your table, a strawberry plant grows from a glass of water. Pairs of birds sing from wood cages overhead. Cats the size of tigers take lazy swipes at the visitor. Branches of fruit trees grow in jam jars and bowls and cups. Red clusters suspended from silk thread. Vines climb along the wall. A dozen finches trill. You are dressed in dark cotton that covers your distended form. You serve coffee in cups so delicate I can see through them. You are like the king of a small, happy country where whiskey was never invented. 2. We had been drinking and lost my car, a white Impala Supersport, somewhere in downtown Minneapolis. You leaned towards me, trying to explain in a whispery voice. Unforgettable how your head rolled, how huge you had become. Close up, you slurred through the story. I watched your mouth fill with dirt and blood. I wanted to hold you in one of those deep, soul-stirring kisses you once excelled at, but then I remembered. You are unconscious, and I have lost a car. I was very happy to wake up from that dream and realize that I knew that was a white 66 Impala Supersport, and I thought it meant something profound. This is a continuation of the two grief poems. I woke from this most recent dream of you, Billy, with a broken heart and amnesia. I put my hand down to the floor where my little dog sleeps. I was trying to remember how long it has been since your bride, shrieking that I still loved you, drove me from the wedding dance with her broken champagne glass. In these 13 years, I have worked hard and married well, but I forget everything good about my life and lie ruined, hopeless, because you do not love me. And for this I will grieve all of my life. And last night, in my dream, when you would not let me kiss you, I knew nothing but loss, a broken, empty life, and the yearning unstretched inside me to twice my height and broke all hope, until I just held onto the dog with one hand and my face with the other, holding on to the life that I have made, so that the thought of you would not come like a cat's mouth and resting over mine, suck the life too briefly from me. Number 2. Last night we were kissing so deeply and continuously, my red lipstick was a smear all along your throat and jaw, and I overheard someone say that we were in our own world. Then I woke up and noticed that our own world was always two very small places, and yours was always drinking with strange people passing through, making small talk over one bottle or another. And mine was a room with one who is wondering why she loves so hard when at night she thinks it'll kill her. And even when you are standing beside me or in my arms, I feel a sort of clear box containing each of us separately. And more, this clatter you make with your drinking buddies dries into a fine and perforate veil that I cannot pass through, not for a moment. Not even if I drink with you and lie beside you when you are asleep, breathing your airplane glue exhalations, while a boozy purple garden grows privately in the air above your head. This is called to me, you were Paris once. I remember the moon when we were 20. I remember smooth cheekbones and flat lines of jaw and lid that years later I would recognize as my own. I remember your smell of green moss, subway steam, parfumerie, patisserie. I remember touching your waist and you turning to me with a question mark of a look. So I took you to the psychiatric hospital to meet my mother, where you held her hand when she wept, and for this I am bound to you. We took her for a ride. You balanced blue flowers on your lap. You held her hand. You were so young. I could never stop loving you, long after all acts of compassion were done. This one is called erotica. Even the closest are incomprehensibly far away, they say about the stars, while your hands are a pair of calfskin gloves, palm up beside the wood stove, more sensual than prayer. Soot gathers at the fingertips while you are not here. I sit up in bed, the fire out, wondering if you ever saw me. A woman, suddenly awakened, peers into her own reflection. Saw my hip bones and ribs, saw my mouth, saw language, saw my life open so you could see yourself inside of it, dreaming our separate dreams inside our animal bodies. This town I sleep in is a little traveling carnival on the vast Idaho range. The bright bracelet a child has dropped into a lake, where I sit up and feel my soul in my mouth like water, and through a dark room and in a mirror, the naked image tries to discern itself from a shadow on a glass. I peer into my own reflection, see the dark gesture the body makes, the sudden confusion when you have been asleep, and find even the most indelible impressions ghostly, not necessarily true. The golden cup of the lap, pushing into a cave of wet stars. This one is called Fribble, and the Independent was nice enough to publish it. They have an italics on their printer, so the sign language can be put in italics, and it looks really beautiful. Last year at deaf school, I got pulled aside and spoken to because someone saw him kissing my hand. Venu's dream. Him and me over a strawberry fribble in a booth at Friendly's, arms across each other's shoulders, old soldiers in this old war. After dinner and homework, we wander to the track. The dorm parent says it's okay, so we hold hands and run. Venu clutches his imperfect heart, lifts his head, and laughs like a daredevil whose life expectancy is a broken line on a small brown hand. In my dreams, he makes the sign, please. This year, his teacher tells me our behavior is inappropriate. Bad do, she signs to Venu. Strawberry ice cream, I love you, he signs across the lunchroom, drinking his milk and humming along. Alone at the detention table for pointing the wrong finger at his teacher who shrieks. Venu, I'm married and I'm 38 years old, I say. And he signs, best sweetheart, soon old. Venu, our predicament is older than stone. This is a short poem called By the Upturned Boat. And this is one of those poems that I wrote when I was done writing it. I didn't know if I'd written it or Louise Gluck had. So I had a very hard time reading all of her poems and realizing that I didn't memorize it and then steal it. It's always a problem. By the Upturned Boat. The old woman had fallen and broken her hip and could not visit her husband in the nursing home for almost a year. When she did finally arrive, his body had grown scales like a fish everywhere. She spent hours brushing them away. Beneath the peel, his skin was new. He awakened with dull eyes and could not let go of her hand. He could feel the lapping, the little tug, and it was almost stronger than air. Eventually, she left, and he began wriggling backwards into the sand, beneath the blanket of the shoreline, where the light bends, where the lost dog sleeps, where the dead child is taking his first step. The second one is written to that old woman that went and scratched the scales off of her husband. Her name is Arlene. When I was 5, she told me that I was a free spirit like her, and I was able to redefine myself using that idea of free spirit, which I recommend you all tell any kid you run into. It saves them a lot of trouble. And this one is called Arlene. At the nursing home, I kiss her and walk out into the weak winter sunlight of Nicollet Avenue. And when I lick my lips, I can taste the milk she was drinking when we said goodbye. That butterfly in physics moves its wings, and something happens across worlds, always knowing that sweet milk was there. The last poem I'm going to read you tonight is, I'm not sure if I've ever read it here before or not. In the year that goes by when I read, I forget a lot, so bear with me. This poem is called The Dream Doctor. This was one of the hardest poems I ever wrote, and it's the hardest poem I've ever read. But I think it's essential to write and talk about the most difficult things. 1. When I was a girl, I burned the house down from my bed. Firemen said it was the electric blanket, but I had been having that same bad dream for years. 2. Broken basement floor shoots geysers of thick oil. It takes just one spark, one crack in the wall that lets the dead look in. 3. The head of a hammer has the horns of a goat. The discovery that one is descended from barbarians. The mother who looks out the window, stares anywhere else, and says, "What did you say, honey?" 4. A poison bath, an unseen machine working in the cellar, a door too heavy for a child to lift. 5. 30 years now of pushing up. 6. While a bleary thing in leg garters rolls over on the couch, and the 5-year-old wakes up in animal fear for decades, animating what lives only in sleep. The basement with no door that is now an open mouth. Arms that grow from the walls with an unmistakable grip and an outrageous size. 7. Earthquake in the dream. Sidewalks buckle. Downtown flattens. I hang by the arms from a wobbling glass construction. The hair of the doctor glints in this stained light. A roaring wind sucks open both doors. A man is talking to me, and then his head explodes. 8. The helicopter crash lands in the bed. The man falls out, his body on fire. I climb a jagged sheet metal staircase to a broken telephone and begin dialing. 9. Then it is 4 a.m. and I can hear a choir beneath the floor. The stove grins. I have a hammer in my pocket and a baseball bat in the bed. A tailless black cat kills a rat in the attic. Something breaks loose from the furnace to sprint upstairs. I grip my pinking shears and wonder how the material object can defeat the metaphysical terror. Too big for the hamper, too big for under the bed. I am overtaken with the size of the proportional void. 10. I was waiting in the coffin for Popeye and Brutus. Abe Lincoln directed the road to hell. Some things I do not know if they happened or if it was a dream. 11. The mattress in the garage and the fire, and he denied everything. 12. The babysitter who is afraid of the uncle who drops by and is friendly when he has been drinking. 13. Afraid of grown-ups, of drunk people and their parties. Something happened on the stairs. I remember that sound. 14. Distinctly afraid anyone left alone with her will initiate a sexual act. 15. Robbed of my sensuality, said the woman. Something missing from our love, said the husband, and disappeared. This friction, metal at my chest, a sensation of being pushed straight up, this motion in the curve of every breath. In my diagram, spirit sits next to sex. The most direct route to one is through the other. The man was draped over my back, and he forced himself into the future. His breath on my neck, his bad language. Then I was trying to pry myself outside the body. An unspoken agreement not to see him. Constant peripheral motion. Out of the corner of my eye, a man attacking, a dog with bared fangs. I am organizing this information in order to live. I don't have to love him. I can overwhelm him. He drinks and finds me beneath contempt. Like the grandmother who died in childbirth, I have barely survived this love of my family. Thank you very much for coming.